Since I wasn't able to make a video last weekend, I'm doing two this weekend, so welcome back. This is my French 3 project right now, and I'm Catherine Ousselin. I'm the French teacher at Mount Vernon High School. Should introduce myself. And I'm looking at how can we look at introducing more tenses through thematic units. And one of my favorite things to look at is the Moyen Âge, the Middle Ages. So one of the ways that I grab the kids is that I show them the more modern chateaux that are in the Loire Valley and all around France. But those came from somewhere, and we have to learn the history of that, or we should learn the history so that we can express our thoughts and actions in the past tense. These are some of the input books that I have been accumulating lately by Amazon.fr and .ca. So we did some Chateau Fort, and the students did some candy cookie castles out of this. But since we can't just have fun and draw and play with cookies, I also have them do a lot of reading, and they're exploring the Middle Ages with different levels of books. So beginners, upper level. I even have some magazines that they can explore. And those students have their own journal, which I'm just working on now, is how are they going to identify and curate information from these books so that they can discuss daily life in the Middle Ages. And I'll share that with the can-do statements and the unit plan for the students on the blog. Going back to my roots, as a TPRS teacher, back in the early 2000s, I had a student draw for me one of the Lays, or a poem, by Marie de France. She's from the 11th century. And this is a short story in prose about twins separated at birth. And it's a beautiful story where love, of course, conquers all. I use this story because, hey, it's written by a woman, and B, it's a way to get the students to tell a fairy tale or a fable in the past tense. And we do a lot of input. So I tell the story. I'm using cards that they're grabbing the cards of the vocabulary as we're going through the story. So I have 15 sets of the laminated cards. So that's two students sharing. And then they also receive the vocabulary card. So as I'm telling the story, they're looking at the pictures, plus they're finding the vocabulary words. And after that, they've heard the story a few times. They start looking at the vocabulary and the definitions so that they can start telling the story on their own. I also made a reader for them, publisher. And that has the story in simplified French. And I put some pictures there as well so that they're understanding what they read. The little reader has the story, and I've highlighted the text with bold being the imperfect plus emotions, italicized words being the past tense, passé composé, and we're using both avoir and être verbs. And the underlined words are vocabulary for our story. And since we're also teaching the past tense in several ways, I have a set of flashcards that have the infinitive on one side and the past tense on the other. So blue is for verbs that use être in the passé composé, and yellow is for verbs that take avoir in the passé composé. And the students put the story in order, in little chunks, and then are able just to read right through that and tell the story. The first few times that I'm watching the story with the students, I made a quick little presentation for them, just visual. Basically, it's those cards that fit this story. So I took the scan of the story, and I'm presenting this up in front of the class. And as I'm telling the story, the students are looking for the pictures, and they're looking at the pictures so that they see this and no text, just words as I'm telling them the story. Looking at the Middle Ages gives the students the ability to think about the past, put some cultural comparisons. Why don't we have castles in the United States? Perhaps one. What was it like to live in that time, and how is it different than modern times? Other things that I do to help the students with the passé composé, the first time that I really throw it out to them, I have these color-coded cards. So green are for verbs that end in I. Orange are for past tense past participles that end in E with an accent, so pleurer. And yellow cards have past participles that end in U. The students receive all of the, I'm just at the beginning at the avoir, they receive all of those in a sack, so they have a list. Plus, they get all the orange cards in one sack, and their job is to look at the picture, notice the subject pronoun, choose the correct tense of avoir, and find the verb in the past tense. And now they can say a sentence, vous avez présenté, or ils ont répondu, or j'ai grossi pendant les vacances. So these students are doing these each one at a time. They're not seeing this all together. I just want to put that up there. But I give them the orange cards first because most of the past tense verbs are, the past participles are with the accent aigu. And after they finish those, they're able to talk about basic things that they've done. Then we move on to the I and the U, past participles. And they have the idea that, okay, some verbs end in this, some verbs end in that, and I have to pay attention to the form of the verb, so I choose the right ending. After that, I give them a little bit more advanced cards, but still color-coded. On one side, they have the avoir. They know they have to use avoir plus the past participle. And on the front, there's the infinitive. So my goal is to give them this and they'll say, j'ai dîné en famille, and they can check themselves. And that one I forgot the accent on, so I'll have to work on that. Or j'ai fini un projet. They can turn it over and right away they know if they got it right. J'ai perdu un objet, for example, mon téléphone. And there it is in the past participle. Prendre is always one of those that gets the kids, so I made a special blue card for them. And that verb reminds them that it's a special past participle. Okay, so the students have gone through this. They're getting the idea that verbs have different endings. I'm still in the avoir. I start introducing the imparfait with emotions. So j'étais anxieuse, j'étais anxieux. I give both masculine and feminine so the students can choose the sack that they like. And then I give them a reason. Why were you anxious? Why were you miserable? Why were you scared? And they read those cards. They're showing off their reading comprehension, and they choose, I saw a snake, I farted in class, ha ha ha, and I drank a poison drink. So they have all those, and I can bring in the imparfait because a lot of teachers get worried, oh, my students don't know the difference, they don't know when to use it. I just introduce them in chunks, so this is the emotion part of it. Then we move on to different reasons why I use the imparfait and the passé composé, but if I get them used to this, they can all say, I was miserable when, or I was miserable because something happened. And they notice that they have the passé composé right there all set up for them. The next goal would be to just give them cards with the infinitives. I also do put a few of the cards in there with être, and that gives them a little bit of a foreshadowing that there's going to be more than one option. The kids are using these cards a few minutes per class period. We're looking at our story. We're doing some reading. And we've got all that input so that eventually the students are going to be able to retell the story of Fresne, the Marie de France poem, in the past tense using their own level of French vocabulary. Have a wonderful weekend. I know that 2 videos in 1 week seems a little bit impressive, but it has been a hectic week at Mount Vernon High School. One quick look at my classroom. If you haven't seen it before, it's filled with decorations. There are no verb charts. I try to just stay with the cultural from all over different Francophone speaking parts of the world. You have the smartboard. Yes, I still have one, and I use it every single day, more than just a projector. Our wall wisher, calendar, of course. Everybody's got one of those. We have our Chromebook cart. We have the iPad safe. So you can see the iPads are down there. There's an iPad charger. Yes, those cards will be organized later this week. We have headphones. We have chargers. There's a charging station for the students so they can charge their phone. This is usually our thematic wall that talks about what we're working on for French 2 or French 3. And then our impressive library with books that I have bought from many different years, different countries. They're leveled by novice, intermediate, advanced, and they're also thematically grouped, so I enjoy that aspect of having the library. There's our game and activity shelves. I have Apples to Apples in French. We have Scrabble. We have all sorts of card games from France that are meant for little kids. We have Guess Who, of course, the tell me about this person and I'll tell you if you're the one I've chose. It's a portable, but it has surround sound. It has a great projector. We have a garden in the back. It's been home for the past 10 years at Mount Vernon High School, and I'm proud to work here with my wonderful students. A bientôt!